I had a lot of fun making this little project. It's a little piece for the garden. It's made entirely from waste wood, or firewood in fact, and it's a great quick little weekend project. Okay, so the way I'm going to construct this is that I've got this lump of wood here. I'm going to use the TURBOPlane to shape some nice flat sections here. I'm then going to join the stems of the toadstools using the Mini TURBO to do mortise and tenons. I'll show you how to do that. I'll join that on, and then I'll take these rounds and then I'll attach them to the top, and then I'll sculpt the heads of the mushrooms. Very easy project. Now you could do this using a forked stump and just cut that off at the bottom, but I just happen to have this piece in my wood pile, so I think I'd make good use of this. It's a nice wide piece for the base, so I'll just sculpt it and then join it onto it. But as I say, you could use a forked piece of wood to do this as well. So now I've attached these stems to the base, and I've used a heavy epoxy glue, two-part epoxy glue, because this is going to be outside. You want it to be quite resilient for the weather. And now there's nothing left to do but to take the rounds, shape the rounds into a toadstool or mushroom shape. These then go on the top of the stems. Now a piece like this, well, I don't even want to speculate how much I'd charge for a piece like this, but the point is that really you're talking about a couple of hours work, especially if you've got a bit of wood lying around the garden or green waste. And quite frankly, you could make a lot of money making these. I think I could make about probably 3 or 4 of these a day. As I said, I think I'd get quite a good price for these. So, you know, think about that. There are some really simple ways you can make good money doing this sort of work. And every single piece is individual. There's no chance that anybody can repeat one of these things. So to do the tenons, I've made this template that you see down here. You can see that I've used a hole saw to cut out the centre. I'm going to use the hole to machine out the holes in the block, in the base, and I'm going to use the piece from the centre, I'm going to put onto the end of the stems, and I'm going to use that as a template to machine the tenons. So very, very simple. One thing to remember, you need this hole to be at least 80 millimetres in diameter. If it's less than that, you might find it's very difficult to hollow out the centre. Okay. So here you see the mortise, beautiful deep mortise, and when I make the tenon on the other end, it'll just slide into there. So here I have my 2 mortises, nice and circular shape, and I'll now do the tenons on the ends of the stems. Just using a mortise gauge to ensure that the mortise isn't too deep. You want to give yourself probably about 5 mil clearance at the bottom of the mortise. Now all I intend to do is to run the, holding it nice and steady, I'll just now run this around the outside here and bring that down following the template. Now with the tenons, you do need to be a bit careful. It's better if I can get around here, because what you have to do is go in the opposite direction of the rotation. In other words, for the tenons, you go in an anti-clockwise direction, and for the mortises, you should go in a clockwise direction, so that you're always going against the motion of the cutting action. If I go with the cutting action, for instance, if I go in this direction on that, it'll actually pull a little bit and make it difficult to get a nice clean finish. But with a bit of care and getting your stance right and finding your angles, because you're cutting on end grain, you've got to be a little careful, and then you can get a nice smooth action. So it's not necessary to go to the very full depth. It doesn't matter if the tenon's a little bit short. It's more important to get a nice surface here. You can see I've got a couple of rough patches here. So before I get to that, I'm going to concentrate on getting a nice clean level cut. Just to check for flatness, I just use the template to place it over it and just see how flat it looks there. That looks quite good. A useful thing to do when you're shaping the head of the mushroom is just to roughly find the center of the log and just mark that so that you know, so that the shape is roughly symmetrical. Otherwise you could end up with it a bit warped. Not that it matters a lot, but I find the log itself can be not necessarily round. And so I just mark a spot here, and what I'll do is I'll shape away all of the top, leaving that to the last moment. One of the things that I'll be doing is holding it in a vertical position like that so that I can stand back and work around it and get it roughly symmetrical. And I'm working against the grain. And working against the grain gives a fairly rough finish with the TURBOPlane. But you can see if I go with the grain, like here, it's very, very smooth. So what I'll do is I'll do a lot of the shaping against the grain to get the rough shape. And then before I finish, I'll then go with the grain to get a nice smooth finish. Now, you could do this a lot simpler than I did it. I actually did a lot of joinery and that sort of thing. But in actual fact, what you could have done is just used a tree trunk that's already split into two. You could cut the trunk off at the bottom, or you could leave a tree trunk in the ground if it had a fork in it, or even just the one toadstool. So all I've done is attach one block to it, and probably what I'd do if I did another one is I'd just simply trace the pattern of the branch on the base, and then I just machine that out with the Mini Turbo and plonk it straight on. It'd be so much easier. This sort of thing you could do in a couple of hours, literally. So very, very simple job.